Hi, my name is Mike Sayre, and I'd like to welcome you all to the first recording of the Infinite Reimagined podcast. With me are my co-hosts.
I am Nick Davis, they, them. I am a longtime tabletop RPG player. Started playing on the NES console with video games and never really quit. So here I am now.
My name is Matt Chapmond. You can call me Matty Fresh. I am the freshest. That's a joke. I've been playing video games forever. I specifically remember playing Pitfall on the Atari when I was a wee lad at my cousin's house, and basically everything my cousins were into, I was into, so that got me into video games, and eventually got me into tabletop role-playing games. Even though they were a sin and I wasn't allowed to play them at the time, I still got to watch them play. I got to watch them do the sins. And that got me really excited about getting to do that when I was older. And when I was older, I did it and it was awesome. And I've been playing video games since then. I've been, and now I have 3 kids and they are currently playing video games right now as I'm recording this. And they love it as well. So there we are.
Stupid question for you is TTRPGs still a sin? Are you sinning right now, or are you sinless?
I am.
With your TTRPGs?
I am no longer a religious person, and my family also no longer. It was the 80s and 90s. There was the Satanic Panic.
Satanic Panic, baby.
It was just when I was a kid. It was a sin, but no, I have no guilt about it anymore. Mostly because I'm not religious, but also my family no longer cares about that stuff either. So, yeah. And I get to pass that along to my kids. On Father's Day, I ran a game for my older boys as my Father's Day present to myself, and it was awesome.
Oh, that's rad.
And back to me. As previously mentioned, I'm Mike Sayre. I'm the lead designer of the Infinite Reimagined tabletop RPG. You can get the quick start guide for that now at infinitereimagined.com. I'm also the former director of rules and lore from Paizo, working on Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I've also done design, editing, and writing work for Pathfinder 1st Edition, Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and a few other games as well. Like Nick and Matt, I've been playing video games pretty much my entire life. I did not start with the Atari. My family was a little too poor for that. I think we managed to get in on like a secondhand NES back in the day. But yeah, so Nick, Matt, and I have all worked in various ways on Infinite Reimagined, both as a game and as a company. Nick's partner is Alice, who helped create the Infinite Reimagined logo, which I'm pretty sure you should all be able to see. Everybody in this room has played at least a couple games of Infinite Reimagined, and Infinite Reimagined is kind of my ideal tabletop RPG, and it's influenced by all of the tabletop RPGs I've played before, all of my favorite video games, especially JRPGs and roguelites. I like progressive elements. I like getting to have the game build and influence your character so that anytime you play a game, you end up with a really unique character. And so what this podcast, at least for this episode, is going to be about is one of my favorite games, Legend of Mana. Legend of Mana is a JRPG. It kind of predates the roguelite genre, but you can see some of the elements of what would really become a kind of key identifiers of that genre that exist in this game. And it's really just one of my favorite games. It's a game that I thought about a lot, and the experiences that it kind of gave me were ones that I was like, this is kind of the purest distillation of this type of game, and I want to be able to take that essence and translate it into a tabletop game that I can play and share with friends. This is far from the only game that has influenced Infinite Reimagined, but it is one of the most important ones. And I'm really excited to talk about it with Matt and Nick for all of you here today. Matt has been playing Legend of Mana. As I'm sure you just picked up, I've played it many, many times, and Nick hasn't played it at all. So Matt, as the newest convert to Legend of Mana, why don't you go ahead and describe the game to us as you currently understand it?
Uh, yeah, I'm not super far in, but I have been playing it over the past few days. Mike assigned it as homework, and one of us did our homework. It was me. No,
I was never good at homework. It's fine.
neither was I. I don't know what happened. But it's it's kind of hard to explain it from where the point I am, except that it appears to be set in a dream world, and your character, because you get a choice of two different characters when you start a male or a female character, which you get to name, and then they are building the world as you're going along by finding these artifacts and placing them on the map and creating a new world for you to explore. When it starts out, I didn't really know what was going on. I was a little confused at first because it doesn't really tell you a lot. But I discovered that like it kind of has a genius like thing where if you talk to enough people, you kind of start to understand what's going on. One of the first things is there's this like Sproutling, I think that they're called. They're this little plant fellow who was just outside my house, who was like, they say that this city only exists because I think about it. And I'm like, huh. And then later it's like, just place this artifact on the map and then a city appears. I was like, oh, okay. So you start to kind of get what it's saying. The kind of messed up thing about those little Sproutlings is I went and talked to a different one later, and they were like, hey, I have no soul. And that was its only thing that it had. And I was like, that's horrifying. So there's a lot of really fun little characters, little side characters in there that you get to meet up with. You constantly are meeting up with different people who are like, hey, let's go on this journey. And then they accompany you to wherever you're going to go. And it's starting to build out into a larger story right now with me. I just had to go find 3 dragons, and it's now starting to feel like it's coming into a story. So that's as far as I really am right now. So I don't know much about in terms of what happens later or how it unfolds. But for right now, it's a bunch of really fun, interesting, weird characters who apparently have no souls, at least some of them. Yeah, that's pretty much my understanding of the game so far.
So you're approaching the part where the assignment to go fight God is going to be given to you.
It feels like yes, because right now I'm because what I did was like I went to the underworld and talked to this guy, and he's like, hey, go fight these dragons and bring me their mana. And I was like, no problem.
Can do.
I go and each time I go and fight one of the dragons, someone's like, you don't even know what you're doing. Like, do you know what's going to happen? And it's an old game, so I don't get any say in necessarily what I do there. But it's starting to build up to, oh, what you're doing is probably very bad. So that's basically where I am right now.
That like the moment of realization of I'm probably doing the wrong thing here. It's very Shadow of the Colossus, very you know, I've always loved games that give you either moral ambiguity or an unreliable narrator. I think that's one of the cleverest tools in video gaming, and video gaming can do it in a really interesting way, especially with older games, because you have you only know what your character knows on the first playthrough. You know, you run through the game and you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't have the agency to refuse the quest. The game literally does not give you the ability to do that. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, my absolute favorite version of that, and just because it's such a mind fuck. Sorry if we can beat that if we need to. It's such a mind fuck when you get to it, and if you think about it, you think about all the things that led you to that is BioShock. Because once you get to that reveal in BioShock that
would you
it's
kindly?
Not just would you kindly? It's not just that this person is leading you astray, but that they every time they are asking you to do something, they are triggering that sleeper agent thing in your head that is forcing you to do the bad thing. And then once you get to the end, it's just, and sorry if I've ruined BioShock for anyone, but it is
20-year-old game. I think that's okay.
Yeah. But don't let that stop you. It's a brilliant game,
Genius.
but it's just one of my favorite, once you get to that moment. And it kind of, while I like BioShock Infinite, and I liked BioShock 2 as well. It diminishes the impact of those games because you know what you're in store for now. Like, you understand the score here,
and I think that's the thing that a sequel or a mimic has a lot of trouble replicating. How do you replicate the impact of the would you kindly twist? I mean, because that's going into Act 2 of that game, and there's 3 acts in that game. So how do you replicate that impact when you're playing as a big daddy in BioShock 2? How do you replicate that impact with a person with free will in BioShock Infinite?
Right. The answer is you don't try. Right. You don't. That's the problem with sequel movies, sequel games, anything that tries to recreate anything. It's even things like once Barbenheimer was a massive cultural hit, you knew instantly the studio was gonna try to recreate that. And you can't recreate something like that because it has to happen organically. It's the same with video games and movies, and the first one going to the second one. You cannot recreate it. It's something that is going to. It has to live on its own. If you want to make a sequel, if you want to further, have something that is impactful on the culture, you have to go in not trying to do that. You have to go in trying to make your best product, no matter what it looks like, and not consider what you've already done. Right. And that's something, unfortunately, that they're never going to do. I mean, sometimes they do that, and it's great when they do. But unfortunately, they constantly go, "This is what worked. We have to stick on this thing that worked," and it's never going to have the same.
Well, and the funny thing for me is I'm very familiar with the predecessor of Legend of Mana. I played Secret of Mana. And tonally, like, Legend of Mana sounds like an entirely different thing. They took the franchise name and they're just moving forward with it.
Mana is a lot like Final Fantasy in that there are 16 mainline Final Fantasies and then an endless number of other non-mainline, non-numbered Final Fantasies, right? And they tend to only have like a little cluster of things in common. There's some kind of crystal bullshit happening. There's summons of some shape or form. There are chocobos and there are mogs, right? And then Mana, maybe unsurprisingly because it's another Square Enix franchise, is kind of the same thing. Mana tells you there's probably a mana tree somewhere involved in some way. There's going to be some spunky kid with a headband, probably. And it might use some kind of ring system combat format or something like that kind of combines the RPG engine with something that feels a little more active. And Legend of Mana to me, so I feel like there are games that are kind of like crystallizations or distillations of like, this is where the franchise really got all of the elements in play. I won't talk about which Final Fantasy I think that is, because that will take us down a rabbit hole and is an entire another podcast that we might do. But Legend of Mana is the distillation of the Mana franchise for me. It's the one that kind of most purely encapsulates what it feels like to play a Mana game. It has kind of the most expansive and deepest tools for you as the player to interact with the game world with. It's got that traditional, very beautiful, but not too overly elaborate art that allows you, like, it sparks the imagination without fully filling in all of the details, right? And Legend of Mana is beautiful hand drawn. They've been doing the updates to the Mana series where they've been making like the 3D models, and a lot of those are cool, and I think it's good for the pixel art. I think they're smart to not have tried to take Legend of Mana into the 3D realm, because the beautiful hand-drawn art is such an important part of what gives it the vibe that it has. So Matt, what you don't know yet, and like tiny minor spoiler that you would get from reading any synopsis probably online, is those pieces you get, like the Sproutling gives you like a little like, hey, here's the first piece of the world. Here's a little village that, you know, only exists because I believe it does. And so you go and you place it on the map, and suddenly this new area for you to explore filled with new NPCs appears. So where you place that on the map, whether it's close to a body of water or a mountain or whatever, impacts the mana flows that go through that area. And then the NPCs that you talk to, depending on which ones you interact with first, which ones you connect to, and where you follow them, they will give you new areas, and each of those areas kind of has its own mana. And you don't actually need to know any of this to play the game, right? This is stuff that, like, the very first time I played this, I had no idea this was going on. None at all. But as you build the map, the mana flows that you've created will affect what kind of things you get in your home, what kind of new expansions you can build, what kind of fruit grows there in your garden. You're going to get a garden if you didn't know that yet. And also what new areas you unlock. So you've been following the Draconis storyline, right?
Yes.
Which is an awesome and amazing storyline, but it's only one of several. There's some sub-stories that are not tied to a specific character who joins you and travels with you. And then there are others where you can follow the characters and you learn about their particular piece of the world, the forgotten history, because you're in a world that like existed and then people did such a shitty job keeping it together that it's fallen back apart into just dream remnants, right? And so you're rebuilding it. You're basically the person who has been entrusted with the power to kind of weave it all back together, hopefully in a way that works this time.
I'm gonna ask a stupid question. You said that you get to rebuild the world in such a way that it affects the mana flows. I'm assuming that means there is an like optimized, like the quote unquote best way to build. Is that different from the one that's the most fun to play?
I genuinely couldn't say for sure. It has different flows, and sometimes the way that it goes, like Matt, it sounds like has been able to like really consistently follow the Draconic storyline, right? I've had playthroughs where I just have to say goodbye to this character because I can't get to the next place in his story. And I go and I follow another storyline and I bounce back and forth between different characters and they leave and they join. And it feels like a very kind of organic, like, oh, hey, look, a new city. Elazul, what's up, homie? Haven't seen you in forever. Lost your girlfriend again? Weird how that keeps happening to you. You know? And then there are other times where you can really ride a storyline and you just kind of, by pure chance, get each piece of it perfectly laid out to follow it start to finish before you go into the next one. So I'm sure there's somebody out there who's broken it down to a gamist perspective of you want to put your starting location here and you want to play the town here and this and this and this, and that's how you can kind of get these things. But it's such a deep game and there's so much going on that I think from just a purely enjoying the experience perspective, it's really hard to say that there's an ideal version. One of the reasons I've played it so many times is because by just kind of going with the flow, by not having an intent behind what you're doing, everything unfurls a little bit differently and you get kind of a new experience each time.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I you're stressing me out with the there's a better way to have done it thing, but you also said that there's not really, like, it can unfurl however it does. I feel like I wish I had known that at the beginning, but then I probably would have looked it up, and and that wouldn't have been quite as fun either. So I'm gonna be fine. I just now I'm just like, well, maybe if a storyline just ends, how will I feel?
I think that's the thing that would stress me out the most, is the possibility of just losing out on a storyline that I was really enjoying. But I'm also kind of a completionist, especially when it comes to JRPGs, because there's always so much to do. So if I lose the ability to do something that I was really enjoying, I have failed.
Yeah. My advice for you, Matt, is, if you don't want the game to end, if you know, like, that there are still dangling threads you haven't stitched together yet, you'll eventually get them on a tree. You'll place it on the map, right? Don't go in there until you're ready to finish the game.
I gotcha. Oh yeah, that is because I have been burned by that too many times. Because I'm very similar to Nick in that. I want to do everything, and if I haven't done everything, I feel like I failed. Or if I haven't done it in the right order or whatever, I'll feel like I failed. More recent video games have done a really good job of saying you can't go back after this. So if you haven't done everything, go do everything. Yeah. I love that, because I have been in situations where it's like, oh, I didn't know I wouldn't be able to go back after this, and totally messed everything up. Again, we don't really want to get into the Final Fantasy conversation right now, but I will say that the first time I played Final Fantasy VII, I didn't realize that in that final, when you go to the crater, I didn't realize that floating save point was the only one you were going to get for the whole thing. And I dropped it at the beginning of that. And so when I got to the end and died in the final battle,
you had to run back through the entire crater dungeon again.
No, sir. I waited 10 full years to finish that game.
There is a particular kind of dishonor in having to do a boss fight run back.
Yeah.
Oh, just that moment of, you know exactly where you goofed. And it's just like, I'm learning something from this moment, and hopefully it's the right lesson that helps me not make that same mistake this time. But dropping that floating save point too early, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah, and it's just like, I wish I would have. And I was had I been a little bit older, had a little more experience with some of those games, I probably would have realized that. Because looking back, I'm like, what an idiot! Why did I think that they weren't gonna, like? Why did they give it to me if I wasn't gonna need to hang on to it? Like, thinking back, but I am obsessive about making sure I've always got a save point, and I'm always ready that if I do need to go back, or if I do die, I won't have to redo something and stuff like that. So that was just the game beating me. Is really what that was.
Games that allow you to drop two separate saves, so you have you can tell that there's a place where the plot diverges, and you can go one route, and you can go, that was really interesting, but I want to go back and I want to see the other route. I think that's genius.
Yeah,
I love those. The thing I hate, because there are games where they'll be like, for a hardcore gamer, here's your single save permadeath file, and I'm like, nah, son, that's not what I'm here for.
I'm gonna shocking everyone here. My favorite game of all time is Bloodborne. I have two of my characters' builds runes tattooed on me. I love the FromSoft games. But they are not role-playing games. There is no player agency. You get to pick which version of the dark ending you get. That's it. And the concept of the concept of, you know, the world is fucked up and there's nothing that's going to undo that. You can just make it degrees less awful. And just like your decisions are entirely permanent. If you make the wrong one, you're going back to the beginning of the game to start completely over. It doesn't matter how many hours you put into that game. There is no going back. And like, there's places where that rules, but I don't think an RPG is the place for it.
Yeah. The Soulsborne games, I enjoy them, but I do not. I like to experience them, and I don't feel. That's one of the few places where I feel like I can get a taste of this, and I don't need to. I don't need to dedicate my life to this, like, because I like them. They are not as rewarding as they are hard for me, and so I'm just like, no, I don't need to. No. I don't need to spend much more time on this.
So, taking it back to Legend of Mana, I'm going to dig into like the mechanics of the game and some of like the particular mechanical nuances that I really like. So, first, I'm going to say my two favorite games of all time are probably Legend of Mana and Saga Frontier. These are both Square Enix games. They're both from like the OG PlayStation era, right? And they are notably from the we're still trying to sell strategy guides era. So both of these games leave a lot for you to just discover on your own, or at the time go solve for, $19.99 at GameStop by buying the strategy guide. Saga Frontier was particularly bad in that regard. They did a remaster of it recently, and one of the big innovations was just adding quest markers so you knew where in the story you were, because the original game did not have that. It's like, you're playing the game, right? You should remember what happened. What you're doing. I'm
not gonna lie, I find quest markers to be one of the most intrusive and annoying things in a video game. I just don't put it on the map.
It's still... For Saga Frontier, it's not on the map. It's in a sub menu. You go into the menu and it's like, what was the last thing I did? Okay, this. So I've got to go do this. But even that tool was not in the original game. It's like, It was not a game where you could be like halfway through a character's story, save, and then leave and go to like summer camp and come back and pick up. Because you had no idea what was going on, where to go. Nothing in the game would tell you. Your only ability to like get back on the path was to just go everywhere and talk to everybody until you found that node that would be the person who would get you going in the story again. Legend of Mana is a bit more... It's not quite as esoteric as Saga Frontier. It's aimed at, I think, kind of a broader age audience than Saga Frontier was. The stories they're not necessarily like for little kids, except for in the way that like German fairy tales are for little kids. Some of them are very dark, right? And it's supposed to give you an emotional experience as you go through, but it's also from that era where there was no DLC for games, right? There weren't upgrades and things like that. The single game you had was going to be it, and the prices of games haven't changed. Games were still $60 for a title like this back then. And so those games were designed with the idea that like you should be able to play this and then play this again and then play this again and maybe learn a little bit about more about the game each time. So Legend of Mana is a very simple to play, tons of stuff to learn, to master as you go. One of the things you've probably already noticed, Matt, is that you get little commands that you learn. Like you learn how to do a backflip or a forward roll and a dodge and stuff like that, which you might not have put together yet, is that each of those commands ties to most weapons, not all weapons. And when you do that and attack, and you start pressing combinations of buttons, that's how you unlock like your new super moves. There's a little twirl thing you can do, and if you have the twirl ability and the spear equipped, and you start doing both of those things together, you learn like a big twister move, that sort of thing, right? And the game doesn't go out of its way to tell you that that's how you're developing and unlocking new stuff for your character to do, but that is one of the like foundational, fundamental things. Is you're supposed to like, you start out with a very basic move set, jump, forward dodge, back dodge, sort of thing, and then it's like, okay, so what if I hold down and back dodge? What if I hit jump and back dodge at the same time? Oh, I did a back flip. That's now a new move that I can map onto my basic interactions, and it's a new move that can serve as the foundation for special techniques with my weapons. There's this whole incredibly deep combat system that is born off of a very simple 4-button combination setup plus weapon type. And there's like a dozen weapons, because I know there's like nunchaku and spears and short swords and great swords and one-handed axes, two-handed axes, I think. That sort of thing.
Knives.
Yeah. And so moves, weapons, combining moves together gives you new moves. Combining moves with different weapons gives you new techniques. And you can just kind of keep playing with this in endless array. It's actually hard to learn every moveset for every weapon in a single playthrough unless that is intentionally what you are setting out to do. Right? It is. There's a lot there.
It almost feels like a fighting game in that regard.
A little bit, yeah. But then that's not the only kind of like building customizable part of your character. Eventually, you unlock a workshop where you learn how to craft musical instruments, right? And different musical instruments will have different abilities, and then you will infuse them with mana power from the mana spirits. And that will give it an elemental type, which will give you a magical attack. Different instruments, different elements, combine new spells. You will eventually find this big junkyard, and way in the back of the junkyard is this golem crafter who will build a golem shop on your property for you.
Oh.
And then you can custom build golems using weapons and armor that you no longer, that you've kind of leveled out of, and now they're just sitting in your inventory. Well, you assemble them into golems, and the quality of the weapons and armor will determine how big the golem's logic grid is. And then you will convert other weapons and armor into logic blocks for the golem that will teach it like if you use spears to make a logic block, the golem will get an ability where it can launch like its arm out at the end of a chain, or launch like a harpoon chain. Fists and things like that. It can do like little rocket jumps, and you can build all the possible moves the golem can do, and the distance that it uses each move at in a little Tetris mini game by putting the logic blocks inside of its logic matrix. There's you already have your pet rabbit, I saw when you were sharing your screenshots,
Yes.
Matt. There's a whole finding monster eggs, hatching monster eggs, feeding them and raising them in your barn thing. This game is so loaded.
I'm just listening to you. I thought I had gotten a good grasp on what this game was. I apparently am at the tippy top of this iceberg. Like, there's apparently so much more for me to discover, because I didn't realize about the different moves, or the like, because I've got like a counter attack, and I think dodge. No, I don't even think that. I think I have a counter attack and defend mapped to those, just because all I really wanted there was to be able to stop from getting hit. Now I'm going to go back and figure out some different options to see what I can do with those.
Yep, and the game doesn't tell you this stuff, right? The game wants you to just kind of discover it as you go. And I know some people hate that. They want the game to tell you how to do the thing, but I love a game that gives you room to discover how you want to play it. That lets you find something new each time that you go in. And sometimes, and the game does it in very subtle ways, because you've kind of been playing through one storyline, which means you've mostly had one, maybe two followers who've been hanging out with you and going through the story. As you keep playing through the game, you'll meet more people who will join you, and you will see them do things. And the very first time I played, I was like, oh, that twirl ability that this character is doing, that's really interesting. I guess that's her unique thing. It's not her unique thing. It's just a thing that she does. And if you figure out, if you watch what she's doing during a fight, like she ducks and defends a lot, and you're like, okay, so if I duck and defend and start using these buttons, all of a sudden I can do that thing she's doing. The game just kind of like shows you what is possible, but doesn't tell you how to make it possible. And I think that theme of it being kind of very dreamlike and you're building the world is very well supplemented by giving you all of these rich, robust systems that you can use very easily. Like, it probably hasn't felt too onerous to be playing the game, Matt. You've been chugging along through a storyline. You've been doing it. You didn't need these tools to experience the game, but they're there.
Right. Well, it's kind of a gamble on that too, because it would be very easy for someone who wasn't playing this game for homework to go, I don't have to. I paid $11 for this. I don't have to go any further on it. Like, I can DNF this one. It'd be easy for someone to feel that way early on. Luckily, it's grasped my attention quite a bit, and now that you mentioned this, it's like, oh, so there's so many more possibilities. There's a chance I would never have changed those two buttons if I didn't know that I was going to and I hardly used them anyway. So I was like, there's a chance I would never have changed those. So now that you mentioned that, it's like, okay, I'm going to go play with that now, and that's interesting.
There's an element of like the conversation between the player and the game there that feels very I don't know. There's a level of honesty to that I really like, though. The fact that the game is diegetically showing you that you can do this, but doesn't explicitly tell you how to do it, and that you can go through the whole game without learning. Oh, that twist move is a thing that you can just pick up. I think that there's something about the game allowing you to play it suboptimally that is just very, very earnest and very real. And I think that that's fantastic. It's amazing. I don't think any modern game allows you to do that. You have every mechanic explicitly explained to you, and there's a controls menu where you can refer back to it later.
Mm-hmm.
There's this, we live in like a golden age of gaming, right? Any possible kind of game you could want to play, it's out there. If you want to make your own game because you can't find the one that appeals to you, the tools to do that are more readily available than they have ever been before, regardless of the type of game, right? The field for self-publishing in books, in games, and everything, it's so robust and well supported right now in a way it's never been. But something that we've kind of, quote unquote, lost along the way is back on those older consoles, that $60 game, that $60 was a lot, and you weren't going to get DLCs, and it might be the only game you had for a while, and so, there's the people out there who are so good at like Mario because they played Super Mario World over and over and over again, and they found all of the hidden levels, and they got to the point where like they created this whole community for Super Mario Maker because people were like, you Nintendo, we understand, need to make this game accessible for 8-year-olds, but I've now been playing it for 32 years and I need more. I need to Super Meat Boy my Mario. And I feel like Legend of Mana has that same kind of old school spirit of you're going to play on this game and we want it. If it was your birthday present and it's going to be the only thing you play for the next 4 months or the next half a year or the whole rest of the year, we want you to be able to keep coming back to it and find new experiences. And I love games that have that spirit in them. And the modern gaming environment really does. There's no reward for doing that in the modern gaming environment, right? There's so many games that are coming out. It's hard to finish one game before you have 3 more really cool ones that are already in the queue. It's a lot harder to play one game over and over and over again without feeling like you're missing out on something else. But I do love that there are those games out there where it's like, look, there is a beginning and an end to this game, but we've made sure that there are so many branches in the path to the end that, like, we want you to be able to live here and breathe the air and come to know this world as deeply and intimately as your time and drive allows.
I think there's another thing that's kind of uniquely JRPG to that. The idea that the game has so many mini games built into it. Yep. I mean, just making a modern reference to it, any of the Yakuza or Like a Dragon games, they have like 10 different mini games in the first section, and they know exactly what they are and how they're doing it, but you don't have to engage with any of them. They're not required. You can play through the entire game without doing the batting cages. You're not missing anything of the story by not doing them. But it just kind of enriches and enlightens on the world. And I think that that's, again, uniquely JRPG, and it's genius.
Like a Dragon is a really good reference. I said we don't see those types of like live in it games anymore, but Like a Dragon 100% is a come live in our world for as long as you want to game. 100%. Yeah.
Nice. I haven't played that. I should look into that.
All right. Put a pin in that for the future podcasts. Yeah. Like a Dragon.
I have a while we're talking about, I'm sure we're close to wrapping up this section. I want to kind of hear what elements of this inspired Infinite Reimagine, and how you, like, at what point did you decide that this type of game was going to be what you wanted to make?
So I love the comforting vibe. First of all, the you open up with this scrawl where it's literally like the goddess of the game who is like, I gave you everything, you turned away from me. Come back, seek me, find me. I will give you everything you need. And then you're either this guy in a doofy little hat or this chick in a tiara with a vaguely Valkyrie look. I do not know why the girl is so much more badass than the dude in Legend of Mana. It's completely unnecessary, but she really is. Like, dude looks like a merchant who put on a pair of gauntlets for some reason. Girl looks like she got kicked straight out of Asgard to here.
Oh yeah, I picked the girl character. Like, I was like, oh no, this is. It's funny. I'll let you get back to that. It's funny. It reminds me of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, when that one came out, where you have the brother and sister who are your Jacob and Evie, and the marketing for that is 100% about Jacob. Every second of the marketing is about Jacob. You get the game. Evie is the most badass character in that whole game. Like, I hate playing as Jacob. Because sometimes you have to play as both. You go back and forth. But Evie is the best, and she's the stealthy. She's the rogue one. She's stealthy, and she does all of the stuff. She is the Assassin's Creed character. But the marketing was like, boys don't want to play as girls, and only show Jacob. I don't know why. That's not really the same thing, but it just reminded me of it.
So to drill in on what you're saying though, like what was an inspiration that we took into the Infinite Reimagined tabletop RPG from Legend of Mana? So Legend of Mana has that world building component. You are given pieces of the world, you lay them out onto the map, and you journey through the map in that way. That really influenced the aspect system that I built into the Infinite Reimagined RPG. So in Infinite Reimagined, aspects are tools for the game master, who in Infinite Reimagined we refer to as the Dreamer. They are tools for the game master, but they are also rewards for the players. So, Nick, you are my longtime GM. You're running Infinite Reimagined. You need to build an adventure, and life has gotten in the way. So now the game is in like 3 hours, and you want to put it right together right now. So the aspect system in Infinite Reimagined is it's for you. You say, okay, like what's a cool story I want to tell? I want to do an icy mountain trek. So I'm going to take the aspect of ice and the aspect of mountain, and I'm going to use these to build an adventure right now. And there are going to be encounter adjustments for being on a mountain, encounter adjustments for being in an icy area. There's going to be a list of ice monsters and mountain monsters that you can use to put together your encounters real quick. It's a very structured encounter segment. And then each of these aspects has a list of boons that come with them. And this is a very JRPG roguelite kind of thing, where it's like, okay, Earthheart boots from the mountain. Here's a treasure that makes you sturdier. And gelid blood from ice, like this potion that you drink that makes it so you don't bleed and are not injured by like piercing weapons. And you take these items and you throw them out there, and then the players come through. And as they complete the encounters, you give them the boons, and they choose which boons they want, and they'll get to do that 3 times over the course of a level. And at the end of the level, one of those becomes a permanent part of their character. It is now something they can do forever. And I really did get a lot of inspiration for building that from the Legend of Mana's idea of you're building the world, you're controlling the mana flows, and the way that you do this will determine the progression of your character. I love a game where the journey of your character is almost as important to how your character plays and how they function as the choices that you made during character creation. One of my kind of least favorite parts of like the 3.5 D&D era, Pathfinder First Edition, and even Pathfinder Second Edition is I planned my character out in advance because I knew I wanted this feat. So I knew at level 1 what my character was going to look like at level 20. That can be neat. It can be cool to be like, how do I get to this outcome? And that can be a journey in and of itself. But I also really like being able to be like, Matt and I both sat down and we started the game with the exact same fighter. We both used a greatsword. We both wore heavy armor. We both were humans. But then by the end of that adventure, because we made different choices about which treasures we took, which ones we decided to make permanent parts of our character, we play totally differently. We use different actions. We fight in completely different ways. We might not even want to be on the same part of the battlefield in an encounter, even though we're using the same weapon. And, you know, way back when I first played Legend of Mana, whatever that was, 25 years ago now, that was kind of one of the first games that really gave me that understanding of how, from very simple components, you could travel a journey that leads to a very different destination every time, even from the exact same starting point.
Again,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, Nick.
The concept of a game that lets you play suboptimally and doesn't punish you for it. That doesn't require you to research your build, doesn't require you to know what fight you're going into, so you have to prep X spells and Y equipment. I think that is one of the best things that a game can do. Not making you brute force it necessarily, but saying that you don't have to build just for this one fight. and then respec everything for your next fight. I think that that's genius.
What I just realized as you were saying that is it makes so much sense the direction Pathfinder 2nd edition went while you were in charge of it.
It's like I have tried to build inviable characters in 2nd edition, and it is hard to do.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that makes so much sense. I think that's great. I'm the type of player who loves a backstory, but does not plan beyond that first session. Like, I want to come in with a character who is alive, who has lived a life before today, but I don't know what's going to happen with this character past today.
Let the narrative inform on it.
Yeah, let the narrative inform how that's going to do. And so I love that. That's exactly the way I play. So that's excellent. I love that.
Yeah. So I think we're wrapping in. We're about 48 minutes in. This might be a good time to transition to our final segment, which is...
Before we do that...
Yes, Matt.
Sorry. Just real quick before we go into our final segment. I did take the opportunity to make a top 5 list of my favorite movies that take place in dreams, because I knew we were talking about this, and I'd like to hear some of the movies you guys love that takes place in dreams, because I'm a movie guy. If you don't know, any people who are listening or watching this, if you don't know, I'm a movie guy at my heart. So I made a top 5 list. Number 5, we have Mulholland Drive. At number 4, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, which is the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie. You can fight me. Number 3 is The Wizard of Oz, which I don't. That's actually my least favorite thing about the movie, is that at the end it becomes a dream. I hate that. But it does take place during a dream, and it's a brilliant movie. Number 2 is Inception. And number 1 is a very underseen movie. Most people who are listening probably have not seen it, but it's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's a brilliant, beautiful movie. And if you allow it to happen, you might find a movie that you enjoy. If you sit and worry about what's going on in the movie, you may not be able to fully engage with it. But if you let the movie happen, it's a beautiful movie. And I love that movie. Anyway, so those are my top 5 favorite movies that take place in dreams. Do you guys have any movies you can think of that take place in dreams that you love?
I'll throw 2 at you. So first of all, you mentioned The Wizard of Oz, and this movie is a little more controversial, but I love Return to Oz.
Me too.
Absolutely love Return to Oz. The reason that there is a Machina ancestry as one of the core 4 ancestries in Infinite Reimagine is because Tok, the Army of Oz, just what a great character. That girl needed to pay a lot more attention to winding that man up. He told her he needed to be wound up, and she still kept forgetting. But
that movie I actually didn't watch until about 2 years ago. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, I wish this movie would have been a part of my childhood. Yeah. It could have been. It was there. I just didn't watch it. And so when I watched it a couple years ago, I was like, I lamented the time that I didn't get to spend with this movie as a kid, because it's a great movie. It's great.
It's beautiful and fun, and it's got a Dorothy who looks more the age that Dorothy is supposed to be in the stories and everything, which I think also helps. In some ways, it's like more fantastic than Wizard of Oz, even though there's kind of the magic is a lot more kind of mechanical in the elements that you see. There's not as many floating bubble witches and things like that.
Magic is a little more esoteric, yeah.
Yeah, and it's dark. You're like, I wish it was part of my childhood. And I was like, I saw it when I was like 9, and holy crap, does Mombi give a 9-year-old some nightmares? But
that's valid.
But that is one of my favorite movies. I love when somebody's like, oh, I've never seen that. I'm like, well, we're fixing that. Another dream themed. Go ahead.
Oh no, just quick about Return to Oz. It has an opposite thing that normally happens. You know that thing when you know someone as a child actor and then they grow up into an adult human, and you're like, I can't find that person hot because I remember them as a child. It has the opposite thing where Fairuza Balk plays the Dorothy in that, and I thought she was hot already, and then she's playing a child, and I'm like, this hurts the other way, where she's not hot because she's a child, but I know that she will be hot, and I'll. So it's the opposite problem with that. Sorry, your second movie.
It's when you see what was it? Was she? So I know it was The Craft.
The Craft and Waterboy.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm not going to dwell on that topic. The other kind of dream themed movie has dreams in the title, is not technically actually about a dream, but I think encapsulates a very dreamlike quality and a lot of good emotion. What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams is, I think artistically it's so incredible. I think it has some of the best dreamlike portrayals that you will see in a movie, even though it's supposed to be more about the afterlife. I think already, right, there's a lot of kind of overlap between the themes of the afterlife and the themes of dreams.
I considered that one, but because it feels so dreamlike, but it just doesn't take place in a dream. So that's the only reason it didn't make a list. But yeah, it's
not literally a dream, but dreams in the title. It has a ton of dreamlike qualities. I'm gonna put it on the field.
I'm with it.
Honestly, I was gonna mention two movies that have already been mentioned. I'm thinking of Ending Things and What Dreams May Come.
There you go.
I'm thinking of Ending Things is a movie that I have a really hard time recommending to people because it's so heavy. But it's, if you're not afraid of heavy feelings for a couple of hours and possibly being extremely confused at the end of a movie and needing to watch it again, that movie is gorgeous and it hurts the soul in the best way. What Dreams May Come, like you said, it's more about the concept of the afterlife and, loss and mourning and processing, than it is about actual dreams. But it does have that almost nightmarish quality to it for most of the movie. I think it's such an interesting analogy for, just processing grief. Quite literally.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that little tangent. But on to our final segment.
So Reimagine. This is the final segment in the podcast. This is where we kind of talk about how would we re-envision the game, what would we do differently, and things like that. And I will say, obviously, this is one of my favorite games. I've played it a lot. I've dug so deep into it that I've kind of fallen in love with a lot of its subsystems. They've inspired my own kind of explorations along similar pathways. I do think, so you get to build out a home as you go, and you add more and more things. And I think one thing that is a little bit tricky is sometimes you discover a piece of the game at a point in the game where you can't really enjoy that piece. You've got your rabbite, you're very early on in pets, and that's a great time to get pets. It's possible to get your pets much later in the game. Difficult, not impossible, depending on how you play, especially if you're really focused on trying to play through and get to the end, because a lot of times, the pets are about going into a part of the map where nothing is, because that's where you find monster eggs, and then that's how you kind of spark into the person showing up and building a barn and teaching you how to raise the pets and everything. The pets and the golem take the same slot. And so I do wish there were like a little bit more consistency in getting both of those early in the game, because the golem you can get super, super late in the game. You can kind of coincidentally get it very early. And there are definitely points in the game where like you've got it and you play around in the workshop and you build it once and then you take it out and you do like one adventure and you're like, yeah, screw this. I'm going to go back to my dragon because at this point in the game, my pet is a dragon. It's not just a rabbite anymore. and you don't get to play with it. And it's got a pretty, I was talking about the logic cube and the logic blocks and everything and how you build it out. It's got a very complex subsystem that you really need a length of time and adventuring to kind of really get a good grasp on. So getting it late in the game can mean it's a part of the game that you just don't really get to enjoy to the same degree. And there's a lot of little blocks in the chain that lead to that as well. Like if you want the golems to be really good, then you need really good weapons and armor. If you want really good weapons and armor that aren't the ones you want to have equipped, you need to have the blacksmith, which means you need to have done that part of the story where you go and unlock the blacksmith and add it. So that same element that makes the gameplay different every time and lets you unlock and experience and find new things every time you play is also the same element that can mean that you do an entire playthrough and you never really fully experience this part of the game that's actually really cool. Mm-hmm. And so I do wish there was a trigger or a structure that worked a little bit harder in the game to give you the foundational elements, essentially the base building. I call it base building, but that sounds so like rigid and military. You're actually building like a beautiful farmstead that's like a fully functional little mini town.
So like maybe giving it like a new game plus mode where you can select what stuff you start with or something like that.
Or kind of shifting the links to centralize how you get that stuff. You have like that first town that you go to that kind of starts your journey to a lot of places, and it does a pretty good job of getting you to these things. A bounty board in the town that kind of gave you a more specific, like honestly, that is probably like the one change that I would make to the game is I would put a bounty board right there in the first town that you walk into, and I would take all of those components, the music shop, the blacksmithy, the golem shop, the pet farm, and I would make all of those bounties where like they tell you right there, so-and-so needs help, go do it, unlock this. Just to prioritize and centralize those tools that are like really foundational elements of the whole experience that you might want to be able to utilize across all of the broader stories.
Mine is similar. It's in a similar thing, and that is in that it kind of at the beginning we could kind of fix some of the things by having a better onboarding process at the beginning. I'm not saying tell me how to do everything, because again, part of it I'm sure is finding out these things as you're going along, but to maybe hint at the things that you can do, like the mana flow. Like I don't know anything about that necessarily. Maybe give me an education on that in some way, but also not just that, something to hook a new player in just a little bit more, because I think that once you get playing, you're gonna be a little more hooked. But some sort of an onboarding hook at the very beginning, maybe an immediate thing that you're supposed to do that would help a new player. So for me, it's a very similar thing. Like help structure it for new players, because returning players aren't going to need that. It's the new players that would help with. So that would be me as well. And I think what you have suggested would help with that a lot, but also something just at the beginning to help a person understand what they are in for might be in order.
Based on what I have heard and what I recognize in other games that I have played, I would honestly just add a little bit more diegetic storytelling in the the move learning process. You know, you start off with one move and you use that move a couple of times, and now you've unlocked another move, and now you know that using your move unlocks a move. So now you start comboing stuff to see what happens. And then, oops, your weapon broke. So now you have to pick up a new weapon, and now you're using those combo moves you've got with a new weapon, and you unlock another new combo move. Just using a little bit more environmental storytelling just to clarify a core mechanic of the game.
It feels like we are all circling a very similar thing with this, which is better representing the core mechanics. I think is really the thing.
Honestly, it just sounds like environmental storytelling overall.
Yeah.
I acknowledged early on it was from the strategy guide era. The strategy guide was supposed to be the bounty board, right? But like that's not the world we live in anymore. And you know, I honestly think of all of the games that are out there, this one is like the strategy guide tells you things that will make the gameplay experience deeper and more nuanced. It's not necessary and essential to the experience, as opposed to like, before we go into saying goodbye, we'll say the game that I hated the most because it was so designed to sell strategy guides in the most infuriating way, Final Fantasy 12, where it's like, and if you want the ultimate weapon, don't open this random freaking chest during the first 2 hours of the game, but do come back to it 50 hours later. Otherwise, you bones, son. Get out of here.
Final Fantasy 12. I have some friends who, at the time, I'm not really friends with them anymore, but at the time, I had a couple friends who were also into Final Fantasy games, and they would always buy the game and the strategy guide, and I never understood that. I'm like, why? I don't understand buying a strategy guide on day one. Like, if you need the help, sure, go find it, but like, they're from day one. They're following the strategy guide, and that just never made any sense to me.
Blind run first time.
However,
same.
The thing that sets us apart there is that they finished that game, and I got frustrated with it and stopped. So,
I'm very much the same. I like the strategy guide experience to be the like, okay, I did my best and I got to the end. Now let's see what I missed.
I tend to do an absolutely blind run, absolutely no spoilers if I can avoid it. I know nothing about the game. Figure out the mechanics on the go. Play through what I view as the best outcome of the game, and then Google the different endings and then figure out how to get the one that I think is objectively better than what I did the first time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we are over an hour now. That may or may not be true when we edit this down, but for the sake of making sure we stay there, I'm Mike Sayre.
I'm Nick Davis.
And I'm Matt Chapmond.
And this has been the very first Infinite Reimagined podcast. Hopefully we didn't bore you too much with our rambling about games, because we're planning on doing a whole lot more of it. Thanks, everybody.